hopefully it'll be moving more quickly than what it has so far, because obviously what we're seeing in the economy, what we're seeing in markets, we need to move fast. There's people losing their jobs. There's businesses shutting down. This is not going to be 2009 where you have the administration proposing a number and then the Republicans trying to slightly get under that number and think about pay-fors and all that. I think the ultimate big number is going to be well over $1 trillion. It would not surprise me if it's $2 trillion. There's a proposal now circulating in the White House which would propose $1 trillion in aid to small and medium-sized businesses, say under 500 employees. It would be direct financial assistance to keep those businesses running. There might be some. I think there's going to be checks sent out, but I think there's a growing appreciation and need that we just can't have businesses shut down. At least if we want a strong recovery on the other side of this, that can't happen. You have to keep people attached to their businesses, and that means keeping those people on payroll and making sure those businesses can meet their expenses.
Yeah, it's such a key point, especially given the fact that we are seeing some companies, some industries actually start to issue layoffs right now in the midst of all of this. Eamon, it may not be it may not be 2009, but there's been a lot of invocation of comparing this to a war. I've seen a lot of comparisons, for example, to World War II. And the thing that struck me, at least until yesterday, about those comparisons is that in time of war, at least you see some sort of industrial production ramp up in response to it as well. It seems like we got something of that yesterday with the Defense Production Act. Break that down and what that's going to mean, how quickly industry can actually start to make some of these much-needed medical supplies now.
Well, we don't know. I mean, companies like GE have said that they're going to strive to retool as best they can and do what they can to make ventilators, for example, which seems to be one area where the United States is sorely lacking. But the question is, how quickly can the rest of the economy pivot to this? And that's just a huge unknown, Morgan. We saw this yesterday, this moment. Phil LeBeau brought us the news on CNBC in the afternoon of the big three automakers saying that they are shutting down production because it simply wasn't safe for their assembly line workers to be on this assembly line in close proximity to one another during the course of this shutdown. So that's something that we just have not seen in the United States before, ever. So you compare it to World War II, sure, but to your point, those assembly lines were running during World War II. They just shifted what it was they were producing and went from automobiles to tanks. You can't do that as easily in this crisis. And so there's just no comparable historical analogy to what we're seeing here. One thing I did want to mention with Jimmy involved in this conversation is the lessons of 2008 and 2009. I keep coming back to this idea in my head that a lot of American politics was really impacted by what we saw in the bailouts in that era and the perceived unfairness of that. As bankers who caused the crisis received the bailouts, enormous anger throughout the country. I think it traces directly to the Occupy Wall Street movement, directly to the Tea Party movement, directly to an American politics in which presidential candidates openly talk about the system being rigged against individual voters. That is the legacy of those bailouts politically. What we do now over the next week or 10 days is going to have a similar legacy. How the future of the country is shaped politically, economically, and morally is going to be decided by senators who are rushing to get a bill out the door. But as they do that, they have to take into account the implications of what they're doing and the politics that they're going to be creating for a decade or more, Morgan.